All right, guys, thank you for that. We'll talk to you one final time towards the end of our show. Right now, we're going to bring in our next guest. We've got Noi Mahoney joining us, our Borderlands reporter, to talk about Borderlands from this last weekend. And Noi, thank you for being here. We've got some interesting news to start off your Borderlands article about a new way to monitor carbon emissions. Talk to us about it.
Yes, 3PL Eternity Group Mexico has launched a tool aimed at creating more environmentally sustainable logistics operations. The tool, known as Ellis Carbon Neutral, uses blockchain technology to measure greenhouse gas emissions during transport. Officials for the Mexico City-based 3PL said right now Ellis Carbon Neutral is focused on ocean shipments, container shipping and bulk tanker shipments. Ocean shipping accounted for about almost 900 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions in 2022, which is, a major problem. So this tool is aimed at reducing those greenhouse gas emissions, CO2 emissions, and helping create more sustainable long-term logistics operations.
No, one of the things you mentioned in the article is that company officials said that early adoptees of carbon neutral technologies can not only gain a competitive advantage, but also obviously lead the way in terms of creating a greener and more sustainable future. How do you see this, and how do they see this as having a competitive advantage?
Well, as we know, the International Maritime Commission has set a goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from ocean shipments by 2050. So companies have until that date to find ways of reducing their carbon footprint in their supply chains. So early adoptees of any technology, whether it's this one, Ellis Carbon Neutral, or others that might come up, will give companies more time to sort of fine-tune and streamline their global supply chains and reduce their carbon footprint, which is something that is probably good for all of us if that happens.
So, Noi, when we talk a lot about countries that have some development to do as far as infrastructure goes, the conversation often turns to developing infrastructure first and then worry about getting to a net zero or to carbon reduction second. But in this case, as we develop more infrastructure in Mexico, we're seeing a concentrated effort to do those two things simultaneously, to not only develop infrastructure to support trade and international trade, but also do it in a way that really does support those net zero goals. Do you think that this is an approach that might be unique specifically to those operating in Mexico that's helped driven by that reshoring, nearshoring trend, and simply the fact that there are so many companies paying money into investment right now? It gives them the opportunity to develop that infrastructure and our carbon neutral abilities at the same time.
Yeah, those are interesting points. I think Mexico has, with this nearshoring phenomenon that we're seeing in Mexico, Mexico has a chance to really develop its infrastructure and its carbon neutral, carbon emissions technology that helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions sort of at the same time. So we can see this development of, rail infrastructure, border bridges, anything that facilitates, cross-border trade, and at the same time create tools that help the country reduce its greenhouse gas output.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what's happening in the space there as well. I'm going to jump ahead to something a little bit later in your article, just because I find it very curious in terms of SKU's distribution Arizona facility designated as a foreign trade zone. First off, what is it, and how is it going to affect things going into Chandler, Arizona?
Well, foreign trade zones are facilities designated as what it sounds like, foreign trade zones. So companies can import components such as, something that goes into industrial machinery or even car parts, and it's assembled there at that facility, and then it's exported or sent to its final destination, which is somewhere in the United States. And what these foreign trade zones do is defer tariffs and tax payments or tax duties until after the product is assembled and sent to its final destinations. So it's really just a mechanism for companies to defer tariffs or tax payments until a later time when they have the product assembled and sent to its end destination, which is always here in the United States. That's part of what foreign trade zones are. The products have to be sold in the United States.
I think that's an interesting way to look at, kind of, as you mentioned, deferring some of that cost down to the very, very end. What does this process for application for a foreign trade zone look like, and why don't more companies do it if they're looking at deferring some of those tariffs?
In this case, the SKU distribution, they're a Chandler, Arizona-based warehouse and fulfillment center. It's quite a lengthy process, from what I've read and understand, to get this foreign trade zone designation. It takes sometimes a year, maybe sometimes more. You have to go through security clearances and other hoops and hurdles to get this designation. I know, according to the press release that SKU Distribution put out, they said they were the first logistics warehouse in Arizona to get this designation. I did check around and I found other foreign trade zones in Arizona, so I'm not sure of that claim that they made in their press release, but it's still not something you see pop up, every year. So it is a pretty significant achievement for this company in Arizona.
And Noi, one more development is something that we've been hearing a lot of and probably will be hearing a lot more of, with Cargo Partner launching a cross-border road transport solution. Again, this is becoming hotter and hotter business in terms of trying to move cargo and move freight from Mexico to the United States.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. Cargo Partner said they've created this sort of end-to-end over-the-road solution for shipments between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And their solution includes, transportation, warehousing, and fulfillment services. And Cargo Partner, which is an Austria-based company, they have warehouses in Chicago and Tennessee. So it's very interesting that they have, facilities in the Midwest and Southeast, and they're using these two facilities to create a sort of North American transportation solution for their customers.
Really interesting stuff there. Obviously, the Borderlands community is nothing short of excitement and development, no matter what. Noi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's move back over to the wall for our next check of weather with Kaylee.